Guys, I am so excited to have on the show today Mr. Carey Stinson. Carey was Barney the Dinosaur for 22 years. And now you can actually hear him every Friday on Purple Road's podcast, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Central Time, 12 p.m. Pacific Time. So, Carey, how are you?
I'm wonderful, Dan. Thanks for having me on.
This is a great pleasure. This is part of a live stream for Give Kids the World Village. And when I spoke to you about this, listening to your show and stuff like that, really, like, your stories are so fantastic. I thought more people should hear this. So I'm just so happy that you're.
I love that. I love that. I love what you're doing. I love what they're doing. And thank you so much for having me on.
My pleasure, man. So let's before we get, I want to clarify this to people that
Sure.
You were the Body of Barney.
That's correct.
There were two performers.
That's correct.
And so kind of explain to people that magic phrase DINOSAUR, so people can get that going.
Yeah, I love to get this clear. So I started back in 1991.
Mm-hmm.
I actually did birthday parties before there was no TV show at the point when I started.
Mm-hmm.
When the TV show came out, David Joyner was the actor playing Barney on the TV show. And I did promotion for them for 5 years. Then I did 5 years on the tours, Barney's Big Surprise and Musical Castle. And then I was the body on Barney and Friends for over 7 years.
7 years.
Yeah, and so what you're talking about with DinoSync is that there's an actor that does the voice and then one in the costume. And we work as one. We're in each other's brain. We worked really hard to make sure that it looked seamless.
It looked really seamless.
Thank you.
How did you get involved with Barney?
I was a musician. I'd come out of school as a piano player. And like most musicians, you're looking for a job. Right out of college, I was actually working as a busboy for Chili's. And I did it. I was there about a week when one of the guys said, "Hey, can you work for me tomorrow? I've got to be Barney." And I said, "What is Barney?" And he told me the whole thing. And he said, "You're a performer. You should contact them."
Mm-hmm.
So I did. I ended up doing birthday parties, as I mentioned earlier, for a year. And then they needed a second person to do it. And so I auditioned and ended up doing promotion, and it just went from there. I'd never been in a costume.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't dance. But as you do in this industry, you just say, sure you can. And you learn and you grow. And that's what I ended up doing for 22 years.
Wow. So what was your first reaction to the costume?
The first one, when I did birthday parties, was actually 22 pieces. It was much smaller. And then when I moved on to working with the TV show, it was big, but I was a cross country runner. And so physically it was right up my alley. And over the years I figured out, the breathing parts and all the aspects of it, because there's definitely a lot of work to it.
The athleticism is just, how you guys do it is insane. 360s and the bell kicks.
Well, there's a lot of practice involved in that, and a lot of training, and you're doing those things technically proper when it comes to a bell kick or a 360, so that when you're jumping, you're landing the right way, you're jumping off the right foot, because obviously, you can hurt yourself, and we're blind for the most part, right? I'm making a move that I'm hoping that it's going to work, but.
So did you have any dance background?
No, not at all. And when they asked me, I said, sure, I can dance. Luckily, my mom was a dancer for goodness gracious her whole life. And so I actually went to my mom and I showed her, it was a 30-minute sing-along that they wanted me to do across the country. So I showed her the video, and she taught me the moves. She taught me how to do a 360. She taught me how to do a bell kick. And it was my mom. And I learned it in my parents' garage.
Really?
So yeah, I got one of my mom's old jackets, and I took a backpack and I put weights in it. So I was trying to recreate the costume as much as possible, the heat and the weight of it. And so when I was doing it, it's hard to learn a 360 if you don't have that proper weight.
Yeah.
So, I would just sit in my parents' garage for hours and hours and hours, getting those moves down.
Wow. When did you know Barney was going to be a huge success?
when I did the mall tours.
Mall tours.
That was back in 92 or 93. They asked me to do a series of JCPenney appearances. They had a new line of merchandise. And so we went to the first weekend was in Texas. And I showed up. I mean, I can remember this like it was yesterday. I showed up in my car. It was at Vista Ridge Mall in, I think that's Flower Mound. And I met everyone there. And the plan was that Barney was going to be in the store. Mm-hmm. And then fans would come up and get a hug kind of thing. I showed up and the mall was packed. They had 7,000 people show up to this thing. And they said, that's not going to work. So they put me in front of the JCPenney's and just took a line of people that went through. And after that, after that crazy weekend, we went to New York and we had 50,000 people.
50,000?
You know? Yeah, think about that. It was the whole level of a mall. And I would go around, you know, high-fiving or wiggling my tail or that kind of thing. And these kids would get to see Barney for, you know, maybe 10 seconds, you know, maybe 30 seconds if they watched him around, you know, or a couple minutes. And I never heard kids complain. They were so happy to see their friend. And I thought, my goodness, I mean, I surely didn't expect that amount of people.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, you know, the TV show exploded and it went from there.
That was before the TV show.
That was right as the TV show. The TV show had only done the first season at that point.
Wow. 50,000 people in a mall.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I always tell people, look it up. You'll see the articles. We were on USA Today and all kinds of newspapers, and it was just crazy.
Barney Mania. It's like Beatlemania.
Yeah, it was. It was crazy.
How was that for you? Like you're this icon, you're this character that people are starting to love and adore, and that's you. Like people, in a sense, 50,000 people are seeing Barney, but it's you.
Right.
What does that do for somebody, like for you? Like you're not being seen, but you get to be that rock star in a sense.
Yeah, you know, it was always about the kids. Mm-hmm. I always would go out and I would think, you know, these kids have waited hours and hours to see something that they love. And so it was always important to me to try everything I could to blow a kiss or give some type of personal attention, shake a hand or wiggle or something, mm-hmm. so that the kids felt like it was worth it. You know, from there I did sing-alongs for 5 years, and that's the coolest. It's the coolest thing to be on stage with a little bit of lights. And, you know, I did one in Minnesota. We had 16,000, you know, kids and parents. And you're doing a song like Mr. Knickerbocker, and everyone's doing it with you. And everyone's smiling, and everyone's laughing and having a good time. And to have the ability to have a job like that where you can just bring so much joy. And, you know, for me, I grew so much. And I mean, to have that much love thrown at you was incredible.
You're seeing thousands like almost every weekend probably.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. And, you know, when I did the JCPenney tours, then I'd go back and work at Chili's all week.
Really?
So, yeah, oh, yeah. I did that for years. And so all week, you know, I'm bussing tables. And on the weekend, I'm seeing 50,000 people. It was kind of two lives.
What did your family think about that? You know, you're working this normal job at Chili's and all of a sudden it's like being a rock star, basically traveling the country.
You know, it's funny. My dad, when we were getting ready to do Radio City Live, he said, I told him I was going to quit Chili's. He said, I don't think that's a good idea. But you know what? You're a grown man and I support you. And, you know, this is your life. You need to do it. And when Radio City Live happened, my dad was in Washington, and he had a business meeting, and he took a train to New York and came to come see the show. You know, we were sold out 12 shows at Radio City back in 1994. And after the show, I came off stage to see my dad, and he looked around in the middle of Radio City Music Hall, and he said, "You were right." And, you know, it was very hard to explain what I saw was happening, right? I'm going in front of 25,000 people, but my family's not. So they're just hearing these stories and thinking, really, 25,000 people showed up to see this purple dinosaur? We did a show at Reunion Arena, which was the big arena in Dallas before American Airlines. 3 sing-alongs, I don't know, 15,000 people per show. And that's the first time my family came to see a show. And they were like, what? And I jump out on stage and I'm running around and doing these bell kicks and stuff. And my family is like, what is this?
Wow.
So that was fun. That was fun.
You talk about Radio City, Barney did 12 sold out shows at Radio City Music Hall. Did you know how big of a thing that was, like being on Radio City?
I knew only because my mom,
Mm-hmm.
as a trained dancer, she kept saying, you're playing Radio City.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew it from that standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
but I was also a 23-year-old, what was I, 25 at that point, 25, 26, 25 at that point. And I think it was my second time in New York. So I knew a little bit from my mom, and I'd seen it on TV, and we were rehearsing in the same hall where all the Broadway shows rehearsed.
Oh, wow.
And all the dancers were local. They were from New York.
Mm-hmm.
So we were dancing with so much talent, but I still don't know that I completely understood everything, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah. It's like you get it, but it's like you see it, you're like, oh, wow. But it's like, wow, I'm performing on Radio City Music Hall.
Right. But I think I was more just concerned about the performance, right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to fall down. This was the biggest thing I'd ever done at that point, to be doing that show. And so, you want to get everything right. You don't want to fall. You don't want to embarrass, so I think I was focused a lot on just doing the best job I could.
And you were with the mop and bucket, right?
I was with the mop and bucket.
Whoa, I'm almost there. Whoa, gotcha! Oh, I guess he got away again. Well, I'll be right down after I get rid of this bucket. Oh, owie.
I was with, you're going to laugh. I got a picture right here in front of me. I was with the BOA.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so this was Barney on stage, and this is a note from the director of the show. And so that was crazy. I was kind of the stunt Barney in that show.
And then after Radio City, you went on tour for a few years. Big Surprise and Musical Castle.
That's right.
What was it like being on tour? Was it like, did you know what you were getting yourself into, in a sense, or was it kind of like were you kind of prepared with the sing-alongs?
To a point. Physically, I was in really good shape at that point. And I was one of the only people from that show that had been with Barney
Mm-hmm.
for as long, myself and David Voss. So I knew how big it was, and I knew it was going to be a big show. Maybe I didn't realize it was going to be that big of a show, but I knew it was going to be a big show.
Mm-hmm.
The physical demand, I did over 1,000 shows in 5 years. Physically, that takes a lot to do. We were sold out almost every night. So that was, you almost get spoiled at that aspect, right? Every night. But it was just such an incredible experience.
Seeing all of you here today is so stupendous.
So then after that, you went to the TV show.
I did.
Is it very like, well, I get to be on the TV show and I'm doing all these road shows. Now it's like I get to.
Yeah, it was tough. I love the road.
Mm-hmm.
I love the road. But after 5 years, there was a point where I started, you start really needing home. Especially back then, we didn't have all we didn't have all the smartphones and all those things. So when you were gone, you were just gone. Like no one saw you, your friends, your family. I call my family, but you're kind of gone. So it was exciting to come back home. It took a lot of adjustment. I mean, I didn't have a place. I had a storage unit for 5 years.
Oh, wow.
My parents had my car. And so, I had to start my life again, being back in Dallas. And then the TV show is a completely different experience because, on the road, you're doing an 1.5-hour performance and then you're done.
Mm-hmm.
But in a TV show, it's an 8-hour day and you're almost in every scene. So, physically, you've really got to keep yourself going. It's, 7 o'clock in the morning until, 5 or 6 every Monday through Thursday. And then Friday was rehearsal day for the next show.
Wow. Yeah, and on the show, you've roller skated, you've juggled, you jumped in a swimming pool.
I did.
But did a lot of that just because you wanted to just like kind of prove that, hey, we can do this and not have to go through the extra mile in a sense? Because I feel like the producers probably wanted to be like, we can try and make it easier on him and stuff like that. But you're like, no, let's just do it. Like,
There is a point to that, Dan. Yeah, so it is a really good point. I always wanted to say, yeah, I'm a yes guy. So when they would come and I wanted the writers to be able to feel that way. Well, do you think he'd jump in the pool? Well, ask him. Yeah, of course I'll jump in a pool. Do you think you could roller skate? Sure, I would. Now, what most people don't know is that I was practicing roller skating, all the time. I would go up to the studio, and without the costume, I'd be rolling around, and so I'd have a lot of practice on that stuff. So you can't do that halfway, right? You can't put Barney on roller skates and then he'd not look comfortable.
yeah.
You've got to make it look like he knows, like he roller skates all the time, or jump rope. It's a trick. But from all those years being on the road is where I really got those, I learned that like jumping rope, I can't see the rope, but I can hear it smack the ground. And so I do my timing from hearing. So you learn to use your senses.
Yeah, that's because you made it look seamless on everything.
Thank you.
The things I could barely do. I can't roller skate. I can't jump rope. I can't jump. And I was like, he's as a purple dinosaur, he's doing great.
Thank you.
So then with Barney, you were able to do so many great things like Make-A-Wish. Now let's
Yes.
talk about Make-A-Wish a little bit. Now, what was that like? Do you remember your first Make-A-Wish?
I remember my first hospital. I don't know that I remember my first Make-A-Wish, but I did lots of Make-A-Wishes. I learned when I was 23 years old when I started, and I learned the responsibility that this was these kids loved this purple dinosaur. He was their hero. He was their friend. He was someone they could lean into. Kids that were shy had someone they could talk to. And obviously, we're talking about children that, may only have a short time to live. And their wish is to see Barney. And so it's a responsibility where you disappear, right? It becomes Barney. And so you really almost are thinking like Barney. You go into a room and you're doing the wiggle of the tail and doing the jump and doing these things, because the last thing you want to do is the child want to see Barney and Barney's not there, right? Barney's tired or Barney's this or that. So I'll tell you, to answer your question, I never realized the power that those kids had and what they gave to me. To see a kid that may have a few days to live, and you couldn't tell it, Barney, and they're hugging you, and they're like, do Mr. Knickerbocker, or do this, Dad. Can you wiggle your tail? They're just having fun with their friend. And so I just learned to take away the emotion when I would do them and just be the character and just give those kids what they wanted, which was their friend.
Is there a hospital visit that sticks out to you at all? Like a moment that like really sticks out to you?
There's a lot of them, and I've told some of these stories before, but I'll tell this one again because it really tells the power to me of children, which is I did this hospital, and they told me at the end of the hospital visit I was going to be going to a burn unit, and they said, you're the only one that can go in there, and we wouldn't travel with the voice, so it would be just Barney by himself. So. And I've been doing this for a while, so I had, you learn to watch the kid and judge your movement, right? Whether you're too big or you're small or whatever. So you go in the room, and there's this child laying in this bed, and you can see her body has been burned pretty badly. And I can't talk. So I just got my movements and stuff. And so I go over to the bed, and she goes, Barney, and starts singing the I Love You song. And I'm doing everything I can not to get emotional because this child is singing it like there's nothing wrong. And her being burned is just not even an issue at this moment. Her friend is here. So she sings that, and, I'm trying to keep it together. because as long as I did this, like, you don't become, you know, I try to keep the emotions away, but I'm a human being. And when you see something so beautiful and so powerful, I'm trying not to cry. And so I'm doing the movements and doing the hug and the kiss, and as she's singing it. And so at the end, I blow her this big, because I can't touch her, obviously. So I just blow this big kiss. And she says, "Barney, I love you," with a big smile on her face. And, you know, that takes a while to get over. The power of it, to think about all that. And I think even from that moment is when I just started realizing, you don't need to try to figure this out. You know, you just need to go in and bring joy to these kids. And I would have never in my early days realized how much those kids would give back to me and touch my life as much as they did.
That's it's emotional.
It is emotional, but it just tells you how much goodness and the power of love. You know, we talk about it a lot, and I just don't think people sometimes I've seen it. I have seen it for 22 years, the power that it has. So,
and something else, watching Purple Roads and Purple Tails,
sure.
You were actually doing a Barney video when September 11th happened.
That's correct.
Did that give you some type of power, in a sense, like I'm this iconic character that people will kind of look towards?
Well, it definitely gave me a moment of us all being together. It gave me a moment of the importance of what I was doing, but what we were all doing, and we were doing a Christmas video at that point. I just think it was important. Here we are, all about love, and I think it just focused more to just really, you know, put together the best product and really, you know, reaffirm what we were doing.
Do you think Barney would work today?
Oh, absolutely.
Unconditional love.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I got the fortunate chance to play the role again last year. I did an event in Connecticut, and I hadn't played the role of Barney in 8 years before that. It was unbelievable, the reaction when I came out in the costume. Every crew member, every person working that on stage, off stage, had to go see Barney, had to go tell the story. "Oh my gosh, my niece loves you so much," or "I watched it as I babysat." Everyone had that story, and they're all smiling, and they're all saying, "Barney, I love you," right? I've never seen people be mad and be with Barney. I think that, and you know, we're talking about, you know, everything that's going on. I'm talking about everyone loves Barney, right? And Barney loves everyone. There was none of that going on, and I think that's what's just so important. I just think it's interesting that the message hasn't changed that we were doing back in the late 80s and 90s. It just seems like it's more important than ever.
What we need now is the most. I think that's what kids need right now, is that
absolutely.
It shows the unconditional love. Are you shocked at all that Barney is still at Universal Studios?
Well, it just tells you how popular, right? It just tells you. I've had friends down there, and I know a lot of millennials go and see the show.
Oh yeah, you see, it's mostly millennials then.
That's what I hear. That's what I hear, and of course that makes me so happy. You know, because he wasn't a fad, right? That message and that character is something, you know, that meant a lot. I grew up with Mr. Rogers. I grew up with Sesame Street, and I got the chance to work with Carol Spinney, and I was like that. I was that young kid, just the same thing that these kids are today with Barney. I was with Sesame Street, and it was my hero, and so it makes me very happy. I did the ribbon cutting for Universal. I was there. I was there with Cheryl Leach. I was Barney that did the ribbon cutting, and it was amazing. And I'm so thrilled that it's still there.
Stupendous!
Something else I thought was very cool. You got to perform for a few times in the Macy's parade.
When the ground is covered with fluffy white snow, that's how I know it's cold.
Yes.
How was that?
It's incredible. You got to get up at 5 in the morning or something ridiculous like that, 4:30 or 5. It's physically probably one of the hardest things I've ever done, but what most people don't know is that you're in the costume 3 to 4 hours, because you get on that float probably, I don't know, 30, 45 minutes before the parade even starts.
Mm-hmm.
And then it takes a long time to get to the TV. So you all, at home see it on TV and it looks like we're on for 5 minutes. We're not. We are on for 3 to 4 hours. And at the end of 3 or 4 hours, you perform on national TV with millions watching you. So you have to have figured, and you don't get any water, there's nothing. So you have to figure out how to conserve your energy for when you go on national TV, and try not to fall and look at the cameras and do all that crazy stuff. It's very challenging. It's very rewarding, but it's very challenging.
So many people, it's like that those 2 minutes you get for that performance, like millions are watching. It's like, don't want to miss that step. You don't want.
Well, yeah, I would always call Dallas as soon as I'd get out of the costume. I'd take some water and I'd call Dallas. Mm-hmm. How did it look good? Did everyone look good? Everyone good? Everyone, because I can't see it, and you only get to do it once. So,
Purple Roads.
Yes.
For years, you talked about on the show before how you didn't really talk about your experience with Barney. You're never ashamed of it. You never talked about it. Now, how's it feeling that just getting out that love and that message to people, knowing your face is now to that name, to name Barney now?
It's incredible, and it's very rewarding, and it's been an amazing experience. I got asked to do a podcast a couple years ago, mm-hmm. but as a photographer, the gentleman that asked me to be on didn't know what I used to do. Mm-hmm. So we were getting ready to go on, and he said, "Well, what did you used to do when you were growing up?" And I told him. He said, "Oh my gosh, can we talk about it?" And I said, "Sure." And so I told some of these stories, hospitals and things like that, and these 2 grown men started crying. And I said, "Oh, wow." I was kind of blown away by it. And they said, "You've got to have your own podcast." And so I thought about it, and I thought, well, all right, I'll try this. And so some people helped me get it together, and we put together, Purple Tails was the first one. And the reaction was just amazing. And I thought, you know what? That wonderful purple dinosaur has given me another chance to give back and help people and to give a voice to people. A lot of the people on the show never got a chance to tell their stories, and they're incredible. So that's been amazing. And now Purple Roads, where I talk to not just Barney people, but people all over the children's entertainment world, has just been an incredible experience.
Yeah, the episode you did with Francois Clemens, Officer Clemens, Mr. Rogers, was fantastic.
Thank you.
What a fantastic person.
Thank you. Oh, he's amazing. He's amazing.
You could feel the energy through it. I was like, the energy with him is just great. If you could sum up your experience with Barney in one word, how could you describe it?
Goodness.
That's tough.
I want to say love. You probably know me well enough through watching the show to know that that's what I want to say. And I think it is, bringing people on with Purple Roads. It doesn't feel like time has passed. They're some of the people that I love the most in the world. Mm-hmm. And obviously I've seen what this dinosaur has done, and, we see it again with Purple Roads. So, obviously what we saw with Make-A-Wish and with all those kids. So I got to say love.
Carey, I want to thank you so much for joining me with this. Thank you so much for what you did for myself and all these kids, and the hard work that you put in. And everybody else, all the great cast members and crew and stuff like that. It's always very appreciated.
Well, it's an absolute pleasure. And, keep doing what you're doing. I think it's a beautiful thing that you're doing, volunteering and helping and spreading that message as well. I think that's really what's important.
Carey, thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hope you guys enjoyed the interview with Carey Stinson. It was great having him here. Hope to have him back soon. Carey, thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it, sir. Guys, Purple Roads every Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Central Time, 12 p.m. Pacific Time. The guests that he's had so far have been amazing. Check out his first podcast. He had Purple Tales podcast. The link for that is down below here on YouTube. If you want to follow all of Purple Road's social medias, the links are down below. And also my social medias are down below, my Instagram and my email also. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Let's unleash the love. Buckle your seatbelts. Wear a mask. I'll catch you guys next week. Have a good one. And keep on rocking.